Well, the worst thing that could happen has happened.
And we are getting some very heavy rain here as these bands come through, coming right off from kind of where the beach is. Sorry, it's kind of painful out here, the rain is. It's coming in so hard.
I don't want to get good at this. I don't want to get good at leaving a home. But if we have to, we have to, and we'll return to it, and we will rebuild, right? I guess that's what we learned from last year.
That's about a 40 to 50 mile an hour gust we're getting now. Stay with me, brace it, hang on. That's due east. And this is the last Irma's got to offer, folks. You're seeing the last kind of threat, at least for Jacksonville Beach, where I am. There will be more on the back end as far as winds are concerned. But she's tried to beat us down. She will not do it. There we go.
But that bridge, constructed back in 1941, still holding steady.
All right, so it's been 1 year. How about that since Irma? And I mean, you had Matthew, Irma less than a year after that. The flooding, I mean, so you see a lot from the beach, and we show the rain and the wind, but my goodness, the surge that came in, and then mixing that in with the nor'easter that was right ahead of that, my gosh.
The power of water.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
And today also marks the 17th anniversary of the terror attacks on 9/11 that forever changed our lives. We'll tell you how some local firefighters are honoring those who died protecting others.
Okay, so first, we of course, as we remember Irma, it is kind of gut-wrenching to think about what's going to happen in the Carolina coast with Florence. It's going to be one of the most powerful. I mean, looking at what this thing is capable of, potentially even, I mean, I know the forecast track has a Category 4, and that's devastating in and of itself. Right. I mean, that's bomb caliber flattening of the Outer Banks and into North Carolina. If this thing were to do Myrtle Beach, I mean, rethink what you know of the Grand Strand of South Carolina. Right now, you have got mandatory evacuation orders issued from, I'm talking at the Savannah River of the coast of South Carolina, all the way up through the Outer Banks and into the Virginia area, as well into Maryland. Airlines have issued travel advisories as the storm nears land. Change fees are being waived right now if your flight's going to be impacted. I'm telling you, if you got to fly from Savannah to Richmond, Virginia, you're going to have a flight that's impacted by this. Meteorologist, storm expert Mike Pranley was just right here with us on the desk. Now he's over at the weather wall talking about Florence.
Well, let's take a look. Lou, we're talking about life-threatening storm surge, life-threatening wind, life-threatening freshwater flooding well inland, hundreds of miles where we do expect that landfall near Cape Fear, North Carolina. It looks like as we head into, late Thursday. So right now, here it is. It's just like a big ball of fury in the Atlantic Ocean. A Category 4 could still actually reach Category 5 strength. Likely a major hurricane now as it makes landfall. For us, we've got high pressure and control here at home, so we're expecting just most of our impacts in the ocean. Rip currents and dangerous seas and surf here. So again, Florence to the Carolinas, big concerns where there's hurricane watches. We take a look at the latest satellite, and boy, just it's scary. You just really feel it right here in the gut, Katie, after last year going through Irma and then Matthew before that. So check on your friends in the Carolinas. If they need a place to stay, bring them on to Jacksonville. Now let's get to Katie Jeffries in that 5-Star Credit Union Traffic Center.
Yeah, it's just such a monster out there churning. It's just that pit in your stomach, nervous, waiting for it to make its way towards the Carolinas. But we'll keep tracking that for you. But let's get you guys out the door this morning. This is a look towards I-10 and 295. This is that eastbound side. That is the westbound side. Starting to pick up, but not bad as you make your way out the door. Now, there is a crash along I-10 eastbound, the ramp to 295. No reports, though, of any lanes blocked. Just use caution when you do pass by. It sounds like it's off to the side of the roadway here. Buckman Bridge looks just fine. If you are traveling maybe along Roosevelt, a few little slowdowns there as you pass NAS Jacksonville, but that is just typical for this time of the morning. I-95 looks pretty good from Nassau towards the Jacksonville area. Even over here towards I-10 on I-10 eastbound, just the eastbound side here itself from 301 to 295. That's about a 10-minute ride.
All right, Katie, thank you so much. As we mentioned at the top of the show, 1 year since Irma hit the first coast, the storm's most powerful Atlantic hurricane recorded history, by the way.
Many families and businesses are still trying to recover, and some may never fully bounce back. But one local business that we've been following is now reflecting on their progress over the last year.
On your side's Lana Harris, live now in San Marco, one of the hardest hit areas, with that story now. Hello, Lana.
Hello and good morning, everyone. You know, we've been following the owners of the Rusted Vintage Market here since the days after Hurricane Irma, and they had stacked up, sandbags 30 inches high all around their shop. They had put, all the items in their store. They stacked it up on top of each other, but it was no match for Hurricane Irma. Luckily, they were able to come out on the other end.
They say when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
We all look a little rough.
But they always skip over the part where things get real sour.
I walked into a place called Rustic today. It's on San Marco Boulevard.
Good Lord. These three owners of the Rusted Vintage Market are watching news coverage of themselves from a year ago, cleaning up the remains of their shop after Hurricane Irma all but destroyed it.
You're just overwhelmed.
A year later, it still makes Jean Karst tear up.
It just floods back.
Flooding back are the memories of their vintage finds halfway underwater.
This is the water line.
This photo taken by her sons, who got to the shop by canoe.
The initial seeing it was just shocking.
So they took their lemons and started squeezing away.
It was stressful, but it was also exhausting because we were up here cleaning, doing all kinds of repairs.
Most of us have never tried to put a store back together again. That's a whole learning curve.
But then came the sugar. They found that out of the rubble came fresh new ideas.
We're so in a negative space, it's just like, well, let's dream.
Hopefulness came and we got excited about doing some new things.
They decided on a color scheme, a wall of built-in shelving, and a new checkout counter. But they acknowledge this past year hasn't been as kind to everyone.
Life has moved on. Life in San Marco has not. We still see things that are boarded up and being worked on.
Still, they're proud to say they took the sour fruit and made a tall, cold drink they could be proud of.
Yeah, it's good lemonade.
Now, fortunately for them, they say they were never in any danger of needing to shut down for good. But knowing what they know now, they say that if we were ever to be hit by a big storm again, they'd likely just pull everything they have out of the store. And that's really some good advice, or at least something to be thinking about as hurricane season continues. Here in San Marco, I'm Lana Harris, First Coast News, on your side.
And certainly not lost in all of the talk of storms and hurricanes is remembering what happened 17 years ago today in New York City. Two hijacked planes flew into the Twin Towers, killing more than 2,000 people. Now a single World Trade Center and a Ground Zero memorial in the place there in Manhattan. Now, Pennsylvania. A 93-foot memorial stands in the field where another plane had crashed that day. All 40 passengers on Flight 93 died. Tower of Voices has 40 wind chimes to remember each of those victims, and a lot of connections here on the First Coast to that as well. Today, a ceremony in New York City will honor those killed and first responders who came to the rescue on that horrible day. Our own local first responders will be there as well. Cameron Leppinger live in the newsroom with more on what they're doing in New York City today. Cam?
Louis, good morning. It's an annual tradition, all aimed at honoring the hundreds of first responders who died while sacrificing their own lives to save others. But this year's trip for a few JFRD firemen has already been an unforgettable experience, and it's all thanks to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, after hearing about their tradition, defensive tackle Malik Jackson provided the firefighters with custom-made jerseys and sideline tickets to see the Jags defeat the New York Giants this past weekend. That was a picture of them with Mayor Leonard Curry at the game. Now, I got a chance to speak with retired JFRD firefighter Jason Kerr by phone, and he says it was an amazing start to an unforgettable trip, all while they paid tribute to their fallen comrades.
Those guys were willing to give up their lives that day, and they did. And that happens every day, not in New York City. It happens in a small town. It's that people need to understand this. That's what we do.
Now, Jason Kerr was also dispatched to the Pentagon and Ground Zero a week after the September 11th terrorist attacks, and today he and 7 other local firefighters will be joining thousands of other first responders at the Firemen's Memorial in Riverside Park to pay their respects. While there, the name of each first responder who died on 9/11 will be called. Then after the ceremony, the firefighters will gather at Ground Zero for a moment of silence, followed by a sunset memorial. For now, reporting live in the newsroom, Cameron Leppinger, First Coast News, on your side.
Also right here on the First Coast, a special September 11th tribute scheduled at Mayport today. Sailors aboard the USS New York are going to pay their respects to those killed in the September 11th attacks. Now, this ship, while named for New York City, also carries much more than the name. It was actually built with steel salvaged from the wreckage of that World Trade Center. Today's ceremony is part of an annual tradition right here on the First Coast. We'll be there.
6:10 is your time. A national nonprofit will be on the First Coast today, thanking local first responders after the deadly mass shooting at the Jacksonville landing. Why this is so important, coming up in 3 minutes.
Oh boy, and we've got Florence heading to the Carolinas. Isaac, Helene, Theresa crowding. Can you believe maybe 4? Joyce trying to develop. We'll take a look at where this could move as well, Katie.
Ugh, just make it stop. All right, taking a look towards your roadways. At least your roadways so far this morning actually look pretty nice. They're pretty clear. I'm not seeing any major problems. If that changes, though, I will be the first to let you know.
Images are still hard to look at. Well, 6:14 is your time. Happening today, a nonprofit will distribute care packages to local first responders to show their appreciation for their services. Operation Gratitude sends more than 300,000 packages to those who serve our nation each year. But throughout the day today, 3,000 packages will be delivered to local first responders here on the First Coast.
It's just going to reaffirm what I think they already know deep down in their hearts, and they like to hear it from time to time, is that they're not forgotten, and they know that the public and the community at large support them, and it's going to mean a lot to them.
Each package includes snacks, handmade items, and personal letters of support. Operation Gratitude chose Jacksonville to deliver the gifts to after the recent attack at the Jacksonville landing.
So right now, you've got states of emergency issued in effect, South Carolina, all the way up to Maryland. So that includes North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland as well. Hurricane Florence making its way towards the eastern coastline. States are all going to be impacted by a potential Category 4, even Category 5 storm. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster already issuing mandatory coastal evacuations, the entire coast of South Carolina. We're going to talk about travel now. I want to talk about roads. Let's talk about airlines first. Major airlines planning ahead to help avoid stranded travelers at airports as the storm nears. American Airlines, Delta, Southwest, and JetBlue waiving the change fees at airports that could possibly be in the path of Hurricane Florence. That means passengers will be able to change your travel dates without paying any extra money. American travelers can rebook their flights between now and September 19th. Southwest says travelers flying to the Carolinas and Virginia can rebook their flights within 14 days of their original flight date with no additional cost. All right. I also want to mention quickly traveling up I-95. If you were thinking about driving even up towards Savannah, with those mandatory evacuations in place for the coastal areas of South Carolina, they're going to have lanes reversed. I'm talking parts of I-26 and 95. So travel through that. Impossible right now. Don't even think about it. It's one of those things you need to stay home to keep it easier on the roads for those trying to evacuate.
Yes.
Good advice, Lou.
Absolutely. Don't be heading up there, because we were trying to think of how do we explain how serious it's going to be. Think the devastation of Hugo, but further north up towards the North Carolinas with the flooding from Harvey.
Yes, unfortunately. And right now, it doesn't look like it's heading to Charleston, but up toward Calabash, Wilmington, areas like Cape Fear. In fact, as we take the latest look at this ball of fury in the Atlantic Ocean, we're talking about a system that's a Category 4, could even be a Category 5 major landfalling hurricane late Thursday. Nothing has changed for us. We've got high pressure in charge of our weather, so actually a nice sunny day with just an isolated afternoon storm. But what it's doing is it's steering Florence away. And what we saw with Harvey in Texas, I mean, they had 50, 60 inches of rain. Well, you add in a mountain range and we could have some rainfall totals up near what we saw with Harvey. So that's why we're saying the devastation of Hugo, rainfall totals of Harvey with Florence. So already some hurricane watches as far south as Charleston and all of the North Carolina coast right up to the Virginia-North Carolina border. So again, check on your friends in North Carolina. I already have a couple friends coming from Wilmington to Jacksonville today, so going to take good care of them. And if you have friends up there, if they call for evacuations, make sure they heed the warning, because remember what happened here last year. A lot of folks here wish they would have listened.
Absolutely. You know, I used to live in Eastern North Carolina. Talked to my friends there last night. A lot of them work in news, so they can't leave, but they're sending their families, out of there. So let's take a look here towards I-95. Things along I-95 in St. Johns County. This is near International Golf Parkway. Looks pretty good northbound and southbound along I-95 in our area. If you're traveling around Clay County, no problems along Blanding or along 17 at this point. But like Lewis was saying, you do not want to be traveling up towards these areas.
No.
Like he said, lanes are going to be reversed. You're going to have people evacuating. Please just avoid that area at all costs.
6:18 is your time. The Jaguars are gearing up for a big game this Sunday. Ahead on GMJ, the latest on Leonard Fournette's injury.
It's a good screen team.
Plus, we know students work hard to overcome struggles on the path to graduation. Just ahead, how a local nonprofit is providing students with the help to eliminate those barriers.
Just about 6:22 on this Tuesday morning, and a Louisiana mayor has banned its Parks and Recreation Department from purchasing Nike products. This comes after the athletic apparel maker released a controversial ad supporting former San Francisco quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Some on social media praised the move, but there are others who are in disbelief over the mayor's stance. At a meeting Monday, people protested his change. 2 New Orleans Saints players were there to support the rally. Well, last night, protesters marched in downtown Dallas, protesting the deadly shooting of a black man inside his apartment when an off-duty officer says that she mistook it for her own. Amber Geiger faces manslaughter charges. The Dallas district attorney says the charges could be upgraded to murder charges. The victim, you see him there, Botham Jean, was a native of St. Lucia, and his family is now asking for answers. A Georgia charter school is reinstating the controversial paddle policy. The school superintendent says that corporal punishment is voluntary. Parents were given a consent to paddle form, which states that a student will be struck no more than 3 times behind closed doors if necessary. If parents don't opt to paddling, they have to agree to up to 5 days suspension. Now, the school has received about 100 forms back. A third of those forms say that it is okay for the school to paddle the child.
I bet that'll get a lot of people talking on Facebook. Let's post it. I bet there'll be a lot of debate happening right there. Lindsay Boach, thank you. It's 6:23.
Now, weather with your First Coast News storm experts, powered by AC Designs.
All right, major hurricane Florence, Category 4, 140-mile-per-hour winds moving west-northwest. So here in Jacksonville, of course, we're watching that movement very carefully, but it does look like it's turning more to the northwest as we head through the morning and this afternoon. So for us, we're watching the main impacts over the ocean, and yeah, the storm's really going to take a beeline, it looks like, into Wilmington and the Cape Fear area. And for us, again, it's more about the dangerous rip currents. So keep that in mind. You can see the cone displaying where we could have that direct landfall well to the north of us here in Jacksonville. And you can thank this high pressure from deflecting it more to the north and northeast. So it's basically splitting 2 areas of high pressure, taking the weakness in the road. And notice what happens. Oh, it just makes my stomach hurt a little here based on what we've been through the last couple years here in Jacksonville. And yes, we're going to be thinking of our friends in the Carolinas. Make sure you check on them. If they need anything, we are here for them. We know how to come together and help folks after the last couple of hurricane seasons. Salt life today, we're feeling the effects of Florence in the form of rip currents. They will peak out Wednesday, Thursday, and the surf is up to 2 to 4 feet. We could see 6 to 10 feet, it looks like, by Thursday. In the tropics, Isaac staying south of us, so we're not in that direct impact zone, and Helene likely to recurve out to sea. So in that 7-day forecast, yes, we're talking about being the lucky ones for once here in Jacksonville. A lot of sunshine and low rain chances through the weekend, including the Jags and Patriots game. Now let's get to Katie Jeffries, ViStar Credit Union Traffic Center.
Just a couple of quick traffic headlines to talk about. Like we mentioned a little bit earlier, if you had plans to maybe travel up towards South Carolina, I would not. Do not travel up I-95 towards South Carolina. They've got evacuations underway, so you could see some lane reversals up there and a lot of people trying to leave. So that could cause all kinds of problems if you're trying to drive along 95 up through South Carolina or North Carolina. We got dry roadways out there this morning, so that is some good news for drivers in our area, and no crashes on the interstates currently. Note that I said currently. I'll let you know if something rolls in. If you're traveling towards Mayport, no problems problems over here on Atlantic, A1A, or Wonderwood towards NAS Jacksonville. Maybe just intermittent slowdowns along Roosevelt as people pass the base, but Blanding looks just fine over there as well. Headed towards Kings Bay, Highway 40, 95, and 17 in Georgia are moving along up to speed without any problems. So if you're headed towards one of our military bases, thank you for your service, and I'm not seeing any problems that would hamper you getting to the base.
All right, thanks for that, Katie. Yesterday, we told you about Pat Azell, a local woman who created a scholarship fund in honor of her husband. Now, through a dropout prevention program operated by communities in schools of Jacksonville, 4 students received full rides to the college of their choice. These students work hard to overcome poverty, hunger, learning disabilities, and social struggles.
College is a dream for so many, and to be able to make it a little easier for some of our students to go is amazing. And so we're so fortunate that Ms. Azell came to us for this opportunity, and we hope that more kids' lives will be changed in the future from the support of the community here in Duval County.
I caught up with one of the award recipients, Nikki Martinez, and she tells me the Wayne Azell Scholarship Fund made her realize that she has the potential to be a successful leader.
Just have a really low self-esteem. I don't really believe in myself a lot. I just started praying and I started crying and crying and crying, and I'm just super grateful because it's expensive and I don't have to worry about that anymore.
She was definitely thankful. Now, Nikki's a student at the University of North Florida, and of course she's thankful because now she has the confidence it means to pursue her dream of making an impact in the medical field. Lou?
That is awesome stuff, Brooks. Thank you so much. It's 6:27. The Jaguars are going to be out in the community today. Leonard Fournette will be resting his leg as well. Fournette left Sunday's game against the Giants in the first half, had a hamstring injury. He was holding his right leg there, you see. The doctor says it's a minor hamstring injury. Fournette is listed as day-to-day for this week's game against the Patriots. Oh my gosh, the Patriots coming to town week 2. What a day it's going to be. All right, we're back right after this short break.